day that goes by that Michael Saylor does not get audited by the IRS in a big way
Mm-hmm.
makes me think that there is at least an element of Washington that has tacit approval of what he's doing. Every day that goes by that he doesn't get a knock on the door, he's 25 minutes from Washington, D.C. He's probably 15 minutes from the CIA. There's no knock on the door. He just keeps on going and going. The more that happens, the more I have no proof. I don't know anything. I'm just watching. I know the system as it was structured. I know how sensitive the U.S. government has been about dollar hegemony for a long time. I know they're not dumb. I know they understand what this is. The longer they go without a response, the more I think there's an element where they are tacitly approving or they're looking the other way. Now, why would they look the other way?
Mm-hmm.
I think when you take an objective look at the dollar system as it is structured now, we can see what China has done over the last 20 years. It is, people say, well, we're still winning, or you can't debate. Over the last 20 years, China has won. They owned 60 billion in treasuries in 01. They own still $1.3 trillion, and they haven't bought any in 7 years. Their relative growth rates, their cities, their infrastructure, their relative military strength to ours, all of these things have massively closed the gap. If you look at the Eurodollar system and what China is doing, again, objectively, China is borrowing dollars. They are then lending those dollars at a spread along the Belt and Road that is increasing their influence across Eurasia, geopolitically and economically. They are often lending those dollars against hard asset collateral. And so China is gaining increasing control of the finite assets, finite reserves, finite commodities that we were talking about earlier. And remember, the overriding fundamental mismatch that got me interested in Bitcoin or in gold in the first place, and it was the aha moment for me with Bitcoin, was you can't have this currency system where they're creating unlimited amounts of currency at a time when you were sort of peak cheap commodities on the other side. And so what China has been doing has been basically leveraging this trade. They borrow the dollars and they're buying up the commodities and the hard assets. And then when their borrowers, these other emerging markets, run into dollar shortages, the Fed comes in with swap lines, hands the other emerging markets dollars, those emerging markets then hand those dollars back to China. So basically, through the existing Eurodollar system, the Fed is backstopping, allowing, supplementing, subsidizing China, buying up these finite assets, increasing China's power, increasing China's energy security, increasing China's geopolitical power, economic status, funding China's military, all of these things through the Eurodollar system.
Mm-hmm.
And the cherry on top of the entire ridiculous sundae is the U.S. military protects the trade lanes for China to bring all this stuff back.
Right.
We can't. People say, well, we can attack the trade lanes. No, we can't. I mean, we could, but that attack is the end of the dollar system right there. That's it. That's game over. So that they can't. So I know that is understood in certain circles in Washington. That I do know. And so if I know that, then you say, okay, what else is China doing to subvert the dollar system? Well, China and Russia and others are buying gold, right? Like, that makes sense. Like I said before, if you are in this finite energy, finite peak cheap commodity regime, it makes no sense to store your surpluses in dollars with rates at zero or near zero. I mean, U.S. Treasury issuance since 2008 has grown 9% CAGR. The rate hasn't been above 3 on the 30-year, barely, right? So you can't afford to store your finite surpluses in debt that is never yielding above 3 when the supply of that debt's growing 9 CAGR. Doesn't make any sense. You're better off holding gold, which has grown CAGR, what? Oh, 9% since 1971, right? So they're using gold. Now, so what do I do as America? Well, I either start reserving gold, but again, the day the Fed comes out and says we're buying gold, or the Treasury comes out and says we're buying gold, that's the end of the system as it's structured. And that's, for reasons I talked about before, probably a good thing. But the other thing you could do, if I was working for the US government and they said, Luke, what would you do to combat this?
Mm-hmm.
It's simple. I'd let Bitcoin run. I would have a harder currency than gold, and I'd
Yeah.
let it run. I would let it be, and I would just stand aside, benevolent, or benevolent neglect, and I
Yeah.
would let Bitcoin run. And I would make sure some of it was on my balance sheet somewhere. And that's
Yeah.
a piece I've seen people say, well, we have some from what we've confiscated from the Silk Road. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I would the way you win is you say, okay, fine. Russia, China, you want gold on your balance sheet? Great. We're gonna have the American settlement system. We're the American economy, and we're gonna have rule of law. We're gonna have all the stuff that sort of got America to where it was, and we're going to use Bitcoin to settle. We're going to use the hardest asset, and it's going to float in dollars. It's going to float in everything. It's going to be completely transparent. It's going to be harder than gold. We all have seen, everyone on this show, I'm sure, has seen what Bitcoin has done in gold terms, right? It's gone up and up and up over
Yep.
time. And like, you know what? You guys want to own gold? Great. You do gold, we'll do Bitcoin, and in 10 years, we'll buy back all your gold from you.